The Brand X podcast is sponsored by Audio Editing Solutions. Editing your podcast, just not your thing? Go to audioeditingsolutions.com and see how affordable professional audio editing can be. Welcome to another episode of the Brand X podcast. Boy, it just seems like 2 seconds ago we were doing the closing.
Doesn't it, though?
Well, again, we were yammering on like we do, the things that we do. And we went for 2 hours, and I'm not going to put you through 2 hours because you're not going to listen to it anyhow. And to be honest with you, I think the last hour of this is the show that we did that we're going to play in just a second is pretty good.
Yeah. And before we go any further, he's John.
Oh, yeah, I'm John.
Mm-hmm.
And you're?
I'm Deuce.
There we go. I'm John. He's Deuce.
You lost your place, didn't you?
All right. Well, I don't have a place because I don't have anything up because we're doing this at 10 o'clock and 8:30 at night.
We're winging it.
Yeah, we cracked the mic open and we decided to just do an opening and then go into the show and then do a closing. Yeah. And then... yeah, so you're going to get 2 shows because we don't have a governor. We have no way of self-editing ourselves. We just keep yapping along, kind of like this opening.
Yep, it's the magic that is us.
Right. So anyhow, we started talking about social media and how social media can be a blessing and a curse and be very, very dangerous because a couple of chuckleheads, well, just listen up. I tell you one thing. I think social media, it's like stoning. You know what I mean? Like in the old days, they would stone people. Right. Now they do it with social media. So these guys, well, first of all, people, if you're going to go do some vandalism, here's a tip. Don't videotape it. Tip number 2, if you videotape it, don't post it on social media. So these 3 or 4... how many yahoos were out there and they knocked over that duck head over on the West Coast?
From what I recollect on this, I don't think these people taped it themselves. I think somebody saw them doing it. But there is a landmark in Oregon, and it's known as the duckbill. And it's made out of it's a limestone sediment, and it's the shape of like a duck's head.
Right. It looks like Donald Duck looking up.
Yeah. And you see the videotape and they're like pushing and pulling and tugging and everything. And eventually the whole thing goes over. And as soon as the duckbill part of it hits the ground, it just crumbles it's lost forever.
Right.
It's probably hundreds of thousands of years old. It's a geological formation. And these douchebags, in plain words, and this is a whole new level of scumbaggery, douchebaggery. Their reason for doing this is because a friend of theirs broke their leg on it. And, okay, so your friend was an idiot. He was doing something on this he wasn't supposed to be doing anyway.
Right.
And he breaks his leg, so you feel it's as if it's your mission
now you got to take
go
it down
out there. Right, and knock it down. So now nobody forever will ever see this ever again, because you decided you needed to knock this down. I know I had I don't know what I did with it. I know I had the story, but all I'm getting up is this video.
Yeah, the video
and
comes up.
Basically, the authorities are looking for anyone in your assistance in helping locate these nitwits. It looks like one person has their back to it. I don't know if it's a girl or just a dude with long hair, but it appeared to me to be like 3 guys and a girl. Just rocking this thing back and forth to knock it over.
They knocked it over. So now, and they have pictures of what it looked like before and what it looked like now. And then here's the thing that I was thinking of. I'm sure that they've taken pictures of this from all angles, all sides. Okay? Mm-hmm. So now this thing's gone and everybody's like, they're really upset about it. So then I'm thinking to myself, well, why can't they get like a sculpture to go in there and make another one and just put it there? Like Duckbill 2. I don't know.
Right.
I know what you're saying. Basically looked like a duck, and it was like right on the water, so everybody, it was kind of like a place to go and take a picture. So it was kind of a tourist attraction, and now it's gone. And again, no reason for it, just a bunch of yahoos in there. So they knock it down, and now it's just like this pile of trash. It does. It makes it. I mean, when you look at it, when it's all knocked down, it's like, oh man, there's no way you're going to fix that. But I'm thinking that you could get a couple of sculptures or something to go in there, and I bet you they could put something together that would make it look basically like the same. I mean, is it worth it, or is it just gone forever?
Well, it's a shame because it's a natural. It was a natural formation. It's just like going like that balancing rock. I think that's in Utah.
Right.
The arch. You know what? It's I don't know if you remember. Remember the state quarters that came out? Like each state got their New Hampshire had the Old Man in the Mountain on the back of theirs,
right?
And it looks like the face of. Well, that collapsed, but that happened naturally because of freezing and thawing. And it collapsed you know what? While we're through the magic of Google, Deuce is going to quickly research this. And Old Man of the Mountain. It says the Old Man of the Mountain, also known as the Great Stone Face or the Profile. And it was a series of 5 granite cliff ledges on Cannon Mountain in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. All right, so it collapsed. Freezing and thawing opened up fissures in the old man's forehead. By the 1920s, the crack was wide enough to be mended with chains. And in 1957, the state legislature passed a $25,000 appropriation for a more elaborate weatherproofing. They used 20 tons of fast-drying cement, plastic covering, and steel rods and turnbuckles. So they went to a lot of work here. But it did collapse eventually between midnight and 2 a.m. on May the 3rd, 2003. So, it's just eventually, it's nature will take its course.
That's true.
But, that's different. It's Mother Nature. I mean, nothing stands forever. But, when you just have numbskulls, running out there just because they had nothing to do and they're using that as an excuse. I'm sure they just thought they were like, hey, let's just be assholes and knock this over.
Well, I don't. Again, they said that in the video you can hear one of them say, "Good, now that thing won't hurt anybody else." Well,
yeah, it's just like, and like you said, well, there's no personal responsibility. If you're going to climb on a rock and you may fall off and get hurt, the thing really wasn't even that big when you see the picture of it by itself. It looks like it's massive, but it might have been like, I don't know,
6
what do you
foot
think?
tall.
Like maybe 10, 12 feet around.
Something
They were surrounding this thing and just rocking it back.
I bet it was only
forth.
like 6 foot wide, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it really wasn't.
It wasn't that big at all.
It's just, I was surprised it wasn't roped off or anything.
Well,
but it's you who would assume that there'd be an idiot out there would knock something down like that.
Well, I think again, I go back to the thing where kids just think that they can just go and, I don't know, is it any different now than it was back in the day? Parents try now to have their kids, not have this and not have that because, this toy or that toy, they try to shelter them so they won't pick up this knowledge and when it comes down to brass tacks, they're going to find out about it anyhow. All right. So like when you were a kid and I was a kid, we used to get toy guns. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. When I was a kid, we didn't even need a toy gun. We used to go out and find a stick, and then we would run around and we'd play war. And I shot you, you're dead, and we would throw dirt bombs as grenades. And now it's like, oh, Johnny's having his birthday party, but we will not allow him to have any guns, no toy guns, no Nerf guns, no water pistols, super soakers, because he might grow up and accidentally shoot somebody with a gun.
Yeah. That's the logic that they use nowadays.
Right.
And, that was the second story that I found because we talk about this all the time, you and I, and, especially on this podcast, like how things have really, really changed. And when you talk about this stuff, people, when I talk about it, they look at me like I'm crazy.
Like you have two heads.
Yeah. They don't understand like how it used to be. So there was this story that I don't even know where I found it. But hopefully this will play.
I got it. Hold on.
Oh, you got it all ready to go?
Here we go.
The headline is Pussification. This toy commercial from the 60s would be banned today, but we love it. So.
Right. Now, let me play the commercial. Run for the hills! And what he's got is a 6-shooter. It looks like a real
It looks like a real
pistol.
Colt Single Action Army 1873.
Yeah, it looks like a gun.
Yeah.
So it looks like a revolver. And it has real shells. And
You You are watching a demonstration of the most authentic cap pistol in the world. It has exclusive fanning action and shoots safe shooting shells with greeny stickum caps. The gun and hip-flung Mattel holster are specially made for a fast draw. All of Mattel's shooting shell fanners and holsters carry the true stamp of the Old West. And every boy will walk tall when he wears a holster and pistol with a Mattel brand. You can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
Thought that up.
Yeah, well,
you can tell it's Mattel. It's swell.
Now, and this is a black and white commercial. And
so it was in the 50s or 60s.
I'm going to guess it's probably pre-64 because Westerns ruled the world on TV back then. And I bet you those things are worth a fortune if you had one now.
Well, I mean, it looks like, it actually has the action of a real gun.
Yeah, and it actually looks like it has a good bit of heft to it. Like it has some weight behind that bad boy.
Bet if you put a 38 shell in there, it would shoot it.
No, I don't think it would.
Oh, well, it would explode. The shell would go off. You think that hammer hitting the primer wouldn't shoot it? I mean, it's enough to put...
I would have to guess that even then they were smart enough to know, like, let's not make this actually 38 caliber. Because I'm sure the gun was miniaturized like maybe it was done 90% scale, so nothing would really fit inside that. But it loads up just like a Colt.
It was the coolest thing. It had a shell, and then you could take a plastic like bullet, like the bullet itself, the projectile was plastic, and you would put it in there, and then you would take a cap and put it over the back. Now I never understood how the cap shot that bullet thing out of there.
It must have been like plastic, I guess. It's
still,
just enough to force it out.
Force it out enough to knock that target over, which was about 10 feet away.
Right.
So I'll put if you want to see the video for this, I'll put a link in the show notes so you can go over and watch the video. It is kind of cool, but there's no way they would allow that today.
And that's it. We never even gave it much thought because look how many toys that we had that we saw. There was like the toy machine gun. Mm-hmm. You know, it actually sounds like a machine gun.
Right.
Yeah. You know, that was like really, it was like, you know, and everyone that I grew up with, we all had guns. You know, we had revolvers. And they were advertised on TV. You had, warplanes. You had anything of that nature. Yeah. And they were fun, and no one really thought about it. And not only that, when we went to school, if you were a boy and you went to school and you didn't have your penknife with you, you were a wussy. You know, the other kids would make fun. What, you don't have a penknife? Because during lunch or recess, we would go out and grab a stick or go to the tree, and you would just carve your initials. You know, or if you were Deuce, you would sit in the studio with John and carve Deuce in big giant letters in the chair, and then John has to stop his broadcast. What are you doing? Are you insane? You forgot about that, didn't you?
Back in the day at DBK.
You were doing the top 10 countdown, and he just stopped. And
I'm sitting there with him. I'm look over, and he's sitting in the chair next to me in the guest chair, and I look over, and he's scratching his name into the chair, into the wooden chair. I was in mid-sentence. I looked over. I went, "Are you insane?" He looked at me like a kid, like, "What would I do? What did you do?"
Everyone else's hair initials carved in here. That makes it okay. But no, I mean, get back to what I was saying. I mean, you know, every kid every boy that I went to school with pretty much had a penknife with him. You know, and the teachers didn't take it off of us and make us put it in a drawer, you know, and
because we also didn't take it out and stab somebody with it. We also knew that was not a good thing to do.
Right.
Let's not stab somebody.
But now the theory is, it seems like just seeing one is going to like give people the vapors. You know, like the poor kid, he had a Pop-Tart and he chewed it into the shape of a gun. And he's in kindergarten or first grade and they suspended him. You know, it was like ridiculous. It's a Pop-Tart. You know, it's just, do you remember that story?
It might shot a Jimmy in somebody's eye.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was like, there was a couple
Jimmy. Oh, Jimmy, what you do?
Not that Jimmy.
Sorry. There we go. But, yeah. So And then the other thing is you can't give them a toy gun, but they can go on a video game, and there's even worse things: the shooting, the killing, the knock. You know what I mean? There's death in video games all the time.
I bought my kid two, like we had growing up, a cowboy belt, and it had the holster on it, and it had the plastic bullets molded into the bands. You know,
right
when he was like 4 or 5 years old. And I specifically went out on a mission to buy that. And I forget, but I think I went to 3 or 4 different stores before I found it. Like no one even carries that stuff anymore. And probably by now the manufacturers aren't even making them anymore because, we got all these like nudniks out there, like touchy-feely types. And, you can't do that. You can't do this. And
you can't give them a gun.
They've driven the fun out of everything.
To me, it's an opportunity to teach gun safety and being able to tell them, listen, yeah, you can play with it as a toy, but listen, with the real thing, you can't, you could take somebody's life with this, and you have to be able to. Are kids stupid today? Is that the issue? Because, like, my father had a loaded pistol under his mattress, and we all knew it, and we knew we weren't supposed to touch it. Guess what we did? We didn't touch it. Yeah. Even if we got our ass beat by the neighbor kid, and he beat our ass, we didn't go in and grab the gun and go over there and pop a cap in his ass.
Yeah. Well, think about this. Not that long ago, I mean, relatively speaking, when you and I met, one of the biggest things that you could be doing back then was playing laser tag.
Yes.
And
they still have that now.
Right. But remember they had the set that you would just buy? I had a set.
Right.
And we would play it at the college.
Mm-hmm.
So like you have the belt, and then you have the reflector that picks up the laser tag. And we were running all over the campus back then. Now, if you did that now, I don't even know what would happen. I know the cops are going to show up. I mean, now it's all socially, and that wasn't really all that long ago. It was only in the mid 80s. So, well, it was a long time ago. But I mean, it's just like we saw that much change that fast, Right. I mean, everyone had a laser tag set.
Mid 80s, that's 30 years ago.
Yeah, it didn't even bat an eye. Like, that's what we did. It was recreation. They advertised it on TV. It was in all the stores. As I knocked shit all over my desk, I got to clean this up. It's a goddamn pigsty.
Kids are playing laser tag. The police show up and...
Yeah, I think that did happen one time. I think that was a story. A kid did get shot by the police.
Active shooter.
Yeah, and, they got a report that there was kids running around, and the police showed up, and... The kid jumped out from behind a ledge or something, didn't know that it was a cop. He just thought it was a laser, somebody he was playing laser tag with, and pointed the gun at him, and then the cop shot him. So I think that's what pretty much did away with the laser tag back in the day.
Right.
But we walked around with that stuff. I went to school dressed as a ninja, and I had an actual sword on me. I mean, it wasn't sharp. It was like one of those reproductions. And no one said anything. The teacher was like, "Hey, that's pretty cool." That was in high school, like my sophomore year. I wouldn't even get in the door now.
You get expelled, not suspended, expelled.
Yeah, and then the child psychologist will be talking to you. Like, wow, yeah, I just wanted to dress up for Halloween, but I didn't know I was a, psychological, pathological murderer.
Well, Deuce, you realize that that's an inappropriate costume, don't you? You see, when you bring weapons into school, the other kids are traumatized, all right? Traumatized, and they get scared. And that is something that we frown upon here at Robert F. Kennedy Jr. High School.
Right. Is that Dr. No Nuts' assistant?
No. That's...
Yeah,
Heidi Lipschitz, the school counselor.
It is ridiculous, like what it's come to now. It's just,
Mr. Mrs. Deuce. Hi, I'm Heidi Lipschitz. You can call me Lipschitz. I want to talk to you about your son's inappropriate costume. Did you know he was coming into school dressed like that? Yeah. I mean, what do you mean? It's his costume. He's a ninja. You ever see a ninja before? Well, Mr. Genghis.
No, Mr. Genghis, that's total. Don't take that tone with me, Mr. Genghis. Although Mr. Genghis did have a discussion with one of the counselors. My brother Mike got in a fight in school, and then they were trying to suspend him. They did suspend him. So my father had to go there for a conference. And he says, "Yeah, well, what's he suspended for?" I says, "Well, for fighting." I says, "Well, the other kid started it. The other kid punched him, so he reacted." He says, "Well, we don't encourage that." He says, "What am I raising a goddamn Quaker? He's going to turn the other cheek." He did exactly what I told him to do. It's just
My dad said the same thing.
Is he raising a Quaker?
Well, my dad never said he was raising a Quaker.
Yeah, well, Genghis, he had to come out there with but it's just, think about this. How many times in school, when we were in school, how many people do you know of, if not yourself, had a Budweiser T-shirt, a Jack Daniels T-shirt, the little green guy giving you the middle finger? Everybody when I went to school had shirts now that would be questionable. You wouldn't even be allowed to walk in the door with them.
Making bacon?
Yeah, making bacon. I'm only here for the beer. I had one of those shirts. It was my mom's. It wouldn't fit her, so she gave it to me.
If the van is a rockin', don't come a knockin'.
Yeah. Ass, gas, or grass, no one rides for free. They were all iron on T-shirts that we all got on the New Jersey Shore Boardwalk, and we thought it was a great idea and funny to show our friends in school, and we did. Right. And no one said anything. And we all survived. Nothing happened.
About that? Well, not all of us. Some of us dropped off. Some of us...
no one went crazy because they saw a Jack Daniels T-shirt and ran amok.
Well, the thing is, they could say, well, did you all drink underage? Well, of course we did, because we could.
Right. Well, back then the drinking age was 18.
But I was drinking when I was 16.
Right. So the legal drinking age was 18. But you had guys like you that were taller, and you could probably pass for 18 and wouldn't get asked for ID. I was a dwarf, so no one would ask me. I got taller later. So
the thing with that is, so they raised the drinking age. And they took away all the T-shirts and there's no beer. You can't have any kind of beer. Nothing like that. No advertisements or no shirts that would condone that. And did the kids stop drinking?
No.
No.
Of course not.
Of course not.
Yeah. That's just making them feel good.
They're making a rule just to make a rule. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to change anything.
Nah, nothing at all.
Exactly.
Life went on as it always did. And, meanwhile, you got some bureaucrat, teacher or someone in there that's happy.
Some liberal.
Yeah, well, that goes hand in hand.
So I was listening to a podcast today. It's called the Kurdish.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
You're having a hell of a time with that.
It's called the Congressional Dish. It's with Jen Briney, and what she does, it's a fantastic podcast. She goes in and reads all the bills, and she comes out and she tells everybody what they are and everything.
The interpretive statement,
right? And then she goes over how they put the pork in there and stuff like that. It's an amazing podcast. I can't do it justice. But the very first part of her podcast is a picture of the Electoral College. Is a picture of the Electoral College.
It's a shame I missed out. I could have done something on the Threes Comedy Podcast. So
right.
They said, "What makes you an asshole?" I'm a grammar Nazi.
The Electoral College. Let me try to get through this before 4:00.
Okay.
So, and it comes out like there is a very good chance for a third party candidate to become president without winning the popular election. Just the same way George Bush stole the election of Al Gore back in 2000.
All right, now let me stop you here. Before
No, you're not stopping me. Just let me roll.
Right.
So I know you're going to tell me about all this other bullshit that I don't care about. I'm on a roll.
I'm going to tell him the truth, and he don't want to hear it.
your truth. So anyhow, what she's saying is that if neither candidate gets the 270 electoral votes that a candidate needs to become president, if there's three candidates, then what happens is
it goes to the House of Representatives.
That's right.
Which is controlled by the Republicans, and they'll give it to Donald Trump because he's a Republican.
Oh, wait. You think that, right? But if the candidates are Donald Trump, Bill Johnson, and Hillary Clinton, they might not give it to Trump because they don't like Trump. Johnson is a Republican.
He's a rhino.
He's a rhino, but he's still a Republican.
He's a libertarian now because he had him and Weld, who was also a Republican, were at political dead ends in their careers, and they had nowhere to go. And all of a sudden, they just woke up someday and decided, you know what, I'm a libertarian.
Okay, so you say that. All right, so let's say that the Republicans control the House, but there's some Republicans that will never vote for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Okay, now you've got the liberal side. Now the liberal side knows that it has no chance of getting Hillary Clinton in there, and they don't want Donald Trump. So who do they vote for? Bill Johnson. So if it becomes a three-way election and neither Trump or Hillary can get 270 electoral votes, and all he has to do is win one state, he can then...
And that's where I was just going to point out the flaw in this argument, because historically no third candidate has ever won a state.
Yeah, right.
Nationally.
Not yet.
And he won't either.
How, you don't know that?
I do know that because Ross
You
Perot,
only have two balls and neither one of them are crystal, my man. You don't know that he's not going to win.
You and I both voted for Ross Perot. Ross Perot got 22% of the vote, and he did not win a state. Ergo, Mr. Johnson is not going to win a state at all.
Let me ask you this question.
This whole point is moot.
Oh, really? Did Ross Perot, was he ever governor of a state?
It doesn't matter because because he polled more than he pulled in more votes than Johnson's going to pull in, and he didn't win a state.
The state of New Mexico, where Johnson was a two-term governor. Mm-hmm. If he wins New Mexico, he could win one state.
If
this is all if. It hasn't happened yet. Of course, this is all if.
And New Mexico generally goes Democrat because they've got a large amount of Indian reservations in the state, and Indian reservations always go and vote. That's what carries a lot of those states down.
Usually, a candidate can carry their own state. True. Usually,
really. Dukakis didn't carry his own state.
Who?
Dukakis.
Did Bush?
Yeah, Bush did. He
Clinton?
carried Texas.
Who ran against Clinton?
The first time?
Yeah.
Was George H.W. Bush.
And did he carry Texas?
Well, he carried Maine. That was his state.
So he carried
Bush
Maine.
From
the
Texas.
loser. So the loser in that election carried his own state. Dukakis didn't, but he was. Dukakis didn't carry his own state.
Massachusetts.
And he was Democrat too, right?
Yep.
That's amazing. It's amazing that all those liberals in Massachusetts didn't vote for him. So then they had to really hate him. But see, the problem is that nobody really hates Johnson.
Well, there's all kinds of stuff coming out. Like he didn't even know what Aleppo was, and
okay, so he didn't know the name of the did you know what it was?
I did.
I didn't. I had no idea who Aleppo was. I thought that was a pen. Okay, so he didn't know where it was. But if you said about Syria,
there's a lot of
they're trying to do that kind of shit to trip him up. And you know something? What a bunch of jackass jerk offs. The press is like, oh, they're high money. Oh, he didn't know what Aleppo was. Who cares? All they had to do was say Syria. Now the guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, but they did the same thing to George W. Bush. And I remember you saying, oh, that idiot, he didn't know who the leader of that country was. Hmm?
I don't even know what you're talking about, but whatever country.
The press did the same exact thing that George...
What country was it?
What's that?
What country was it?
The press asked George W. Bush back in 2000 when he was running the names of leaders of the country, and he didn't know some of the names.
Which country? Russia?
They were Middle Eastern countries, Libya, not Libya, but other countries in the Middle East. And of course, would
it be something that anybody would know? See,
this is not, you might know it, and you would think that if you were running for president that you may have taken it up.
You think that
But I do remember one certain John Buchanan is saying what an idiot he was for not knowing this.
He's an idiot for a lot of reasons.
Not just,
he is an idiot for a lot of reasons, not just because he didn't know who.
Oh, by the way, how did he steal the election from Al Gore?
Oh, he had his brother throw the election in Florida.
Oh, and how did he do that?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
So you're drinking the Kool-Aid. You are a conspiracy theorist.
Absolutely, I told you that.
Yeah,
Hanging
that's not
chads
what happened.
And stuff like that.
That's not what happened.
Oh, I know. You have your right wing.
No, I don't have
left
my
wing.
Right.
Where are you? Right, you're right wing.
Well, I'm a right wing.
Yeah, you have your right wing
Well,
Kool-Aid that you drink.
if I ask you a question, how it happened, and you can't answer, you should just say, I don't know, but for some reason, I'm going to drink this Kool-Aid.
I don't sit there and listen to things chapter and verse. I peruse. I can't even remember what I had for dinner last night. And you want me to remember chapter and verse of something.
In a nutshell, here's what happened.
Oh, here we go.
It's very, I've done this a million times for conspiracy theorists like you. Okay. Florida is split by 2 time zones. The Panhandle is in Central Time. One of the news outlets, I believe it was ABC, called the election for Gore at 7 o'clock their time. It was 8 o'clock here. They said, that's it, and we're calling the state for Gore. Well, everyone in the Panhandle didn't get a chance to vote. They said, well, that's that, and they didn't go to vote. They predict that there was 10,000 people, not votes for Bush. 10,000 people didn't get a chance to vote because they called the state. Why go out to vote? And then it came to the fact that Florida came back in play. So Al Gore conceded the election. And then someone got to him and said, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. He says, well, it's too late. I've conceded. Now, see, here's the thing. When you concede, you're done. And when Al Gore called George W. Bush said, wait, let me get this. You're calling to unconcede? You can't do that. It's like throwing the towel in the ring when you're boxing. You don't unthrow the towel into the ring. You've conceded. Anyway, what wound up happening was they started the recounts, and Florida state law clearly says you have to count the ballots in every county. Al Gore's team only wanted 3 counties counted, which were strangely heavily Democratic counties. That's not too conspiratorial. So what happened was within the 2-week period by the Constitution of Florida, when that time was up, Katherine Harris declared the election under the rules and the Constitution of Florida for George W. Bush.
Okay, so let me ask you this question.
Al Gore did not like that, so what did they do? They filed a lawsuit in the Florida Supreme Court. The Florida Supreme Court, who the bulk of them were judges that were Democrats, broke Florida law, broke their oath to uphold the Florida Constitution, and said, no, we're going to let this continue. At which point, George W. Bush's team filed it with the federal Supreme Court, and the federal Supreme Court said, no, the Florida Supreme Court broke the law. Katherine Harris followed the law, and that's how George W. Bush became president of the United States. Okay, what did the Democrats do? They made fun of Katherine Harris because she wore too much makeup. It's what they do.
But here's the thing. Now, a common sense person would say, okay, let me count some of these ballots that you say, all right, so these 3 counties are heavily Democratic.
That's who Gore won. Those are 3 counties that Gore won.
Let me finish here. So, all right, so we're going to recount them. You already say, here's the count. All right, this is your official count. We want these recounted. If there's shenanigans going on here, then we want the other ones recounted too. And that's what I'm talking about. Because you can't sit there. I just think to be honest with you, I don't even know if we can ever have an honest election now with the way the things are voted, and now everything is. You okay over there?
Yeah. Well, by state law, that's exactly what Bush's team was trying to do. Now, what I have said, I used to be self-employed, as you all know, and I always say this stuff for people like you.
Oh, here he goes. He's in his heyday right now. Now, what's that? Newspaper recount. He has a USA Today
from April the 4th, 2001. Newspaper's recount shows Bush prevailed in Florida vote. And they used 5 standards on this. And what were those standards? They had the lenient standard, Bush wins. The Palm Beach standard, Bush wins. The two corner standard, Bush wins. And the strict standard. So no matter how, and you know who did this? Who put this on and who paid for it? USA Today and Knight Ridder, 2 liberal organizations who were just trying to get the guy recalled. They didn't do it for journalistic reasons or a random act of journalism. They were out gunning for him, and their little experiment failed. So don't oversay that George W. Bush stole the election from Al Gore, because it didn't happen. Go ahead, you were saying?
Well, what I'm saying is that if everybody says that the voting for a third-party candidate is throwing your vote away, and what I'm trying to say right now, that is not throwing your vote away. And if he can win one state one state, and then the other two clowns can't get 270 electoral votes, then he has a real good, legitimate shot.
He's not going to win a state, in my opinion.
All right, that's your
Just
opinion.
historical record. Like I said, Ross Perot got 22% of the vote, and he didn't win a state.
That's the closest that a third-party candidate ever got to that, but doesn't mean it can't happen. Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it can't happen. That's what I'm saying. And the electoral
just because
college,
no one hasn't turned lead into gold doesn't mean it's never going to happen.
That's a bullshit way of saying something. That's not true either.
Exactly because you got a historical record of 200.
You have a historical record, but it is possible. It's not possible to turn lead into gold. No, it's not possible to turn lead into gold, but it is possible.
How do you know that? Maybe 100 years from now, they'll come out with some breakthrough and they'll turn lead into gold. Oh, my God, you're exhausting
with your bullshit. So anyhow, it's more of a possibility that Bill Johnson can win a state than you can turn lead into gold. So anyhow, it is a very good possibility. And I honestly, in my heart of hearts, and I mean this.
He's not all that great of a candidate. I don't know why.
He's better than them other two boobs. All right, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Bill Johnson or Hillary Clinton? Who are you voting for?
Well, that's the lesser of two evils.
I asked you one simple question. Now you're going to say that
Bill
Johnson or Hillary Clinton.
I thought his name was Gary Johnson.
Huh?
Wasn't his name Gary Johnson?
What did I say?
Bill Johnson.
Gary Johnson. What do I know?
So
his last name's Johnson.
You don't even know your candidates.
It doesn't matter. Bill Weld and Gary Johnson.
Yeah, well, if
I had half right.
If some miracle of miracles occurred and it came down to those two candidates, then I'd have to vote for Johnson.
I'm giving you a scenario. This is the miracle of miracles. There's a ballot on November, the election day. You have to go in, and it's Hillary Clinton and Gary Johnson.
What happened to Trump?
He died in a plane crash. Okay?
And Republicans strangely didn't put anyone else up?
Nope. No. It's just Gary Johnson. I almost said Bill Johnson again. It's Gary Johnson and Hillary Clinton. You don't do this because you know what the answer is, and now you're stalling.
No, Bill, I'm just saying this because you're putting out I have to reject the premise of the question because the Republicans would put somebody up.
I hear there's rumors on the internets.
It's a simple question. It's a scenario.
But it doesn't exist in reality. But just to entertain you, and bore the listeners, if it came down to those two candidates, then I would have no choice but to vote for Johnson.
Okay. All right. Now, Hillary Clinton dies in a plane crash. Okay. The Democrats don't put anybody on the ballot.
Another impossibility.
Right. Gary Johnson and Donald Trump are the two candidates that are running for president. Who are you voting for?
Well, I'm going to vote for Trump.
You're going to vote for Trump over Gary Johnson?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Because before you did this thought exercise, I asked you why you like the guy so much.
I like the guy so much.
And you launched into a thought experiment.
I'll tell you why I like the guy so much. First of all, he is fiscally conservative and socially liberal, which is what I am. Okay, so he smokes pot. He's not against gay marriage. He's for right for life. He's for a conservative. He's for cutting taxes and balancing a budget. And he's also for not going over and sticking our nose and spending money in all these other countries. I'm all for every one of those things. Okay. Donald Trump, as far as I'm concerned, is a flip-flopper plant.
Before you go, you said he's fiscally responsible, but he's liberally he's big on liberal.
He's fiscally conservative,
right,
and socially liberal.
Okay, now it's impossible to be that way because liberals love to blow the budget up with giveaways. So how is it possible to be fiscally
because see what happens is you are so focused on liberal and conservative.
Well, you're the one that brought in the liberal policies.
I know. What I'm trying to say to you is you can't even comprehend the fact that somebody is fiscally conservative that wants to do fiscally the right thing, and actually say, hey, listen, you can live your life if you want to, if you want to smoke pot, it's not that big of a deal. It's the same as a beer, okay.
Or you do realize that Johnson is the CEO of a Nevada-based company that aims to profit from all aspects of the legalizations of marijuana. You do realize that?
All right. And what's Clinton? going to profit from her being president? Anything, any kind of business activities that she has right now that she would profit?
She will.
Okay, what about Trump? Is there any business? Okay, so let's just say that all three candidates are going to.
Is the CEO of a company that's going to like profit.
Hey, listen,
that.
What's his name? Your buddy over there that ran with Bush, Cheney. You know, he was the head of Halliburton, and they went in and they had a war in Iraq, and his companies benefited immensely from that. Okay,
yeah, and as discussed before, Halliburton is one of two companies that do that. Were we going to give it to Halliburton or a French company?
Again, so you picked the one thing. So the guy has a company that if they legalize pot, he will make money on that. Right. Is that against the law?
It does bring up a conflict of interest issue.
Okay, so it brings up a conflict of interest. I mean, again, states are the ones, from what I remember, states are the ones that legalize marijuana.
Right.
Okay, so
but the company that he is a CEO of is going to be a nationwide company. Okay. So whatever state they choose to do business in, they will profit. I mean, I know, there's just so much wrong with this guy's. And this stuff is going to shake out, in my opinion, as it gets closer. If he's, as the election
I hope he's allowed
closer.
to debate. It would be a crime if he wasn't allowed to debate.
It says it's just like so much stuff. I mean, they say oh yeah, he balanced the budget. Well, that's a fallacious claim, because, he claims to have balanced the state budget.
How many budgets is
But
Trump
it's a fallacious argument because
how many budgets?
It is constitutionally required by the New Mexico Constitution to have a balanced budget.
Okay.
So you can't just say, yeah, I balanced the budget. Of course you did. You had to. It's required by the Constitution.
But he
still allowed the New Mexico budget to grow under his watch from $4.397 billion to $7.721 billion during his time. And using off-budget gimmicks, Johnson actually ran deficits. He inherited a deficit of $1.8 billion and left a deficit of $4.6 billion. So every year he balanced the budget.
Boy, I'll tell you what, your Trump people are so worried about this guy Johnson. They've got their.
I'm not a Trump person. I'm just going to vote for him.
Your party is the Trump party.
No,
and
you're just so dug into this guy. You painted yourself into a corner.
I'm not painting myself into a corner. I'm just telling you right now
that
out of the three candidates, out of the three of them, he is to be honest with you, he's the most qualified, and he's the one that scares me the least.
Okay. What about his vice president, Bill Weld?
Love him.
Oh yeah.
Massachusetts, Republican. Same thing. Cut
how
taxes.
How do you feel about eminent domain?
It doesn't matter how I feel. It's not like it doesn't go on. It goes all over it goes all over the country. They can come in and take your land for whatever they want.
Right, yeah, and you're okay with that?
Of course, I'm not okay with it. But if he's not elected, is that going to stop? It's already happening. So if he's not elected, is that going to stop? Eminent domain, will that stop?
He's a huge.
Answer my question. Don't go start down a road with a bunch of stuff.
I'm not.
If he is not elected, it's a yes or no answer. If he is not elected, will eminent domain stop?
It probably won't stop, but because I remember you scream. No, it won't stop.
Of course it won't stop. So what's the difference?
Because the difference is you were screaming about Donald Trump doing it, but he supports Donald Trump's position to take land for private developers. A little bit of a conflict of interest there. He's in favor of very crippling regulations, and along with Christy Todd Whitman in 1997 pushed for even stronger regulations. Wants the EPA to require an electric car mandate. I don't want to drive an electric car. Was so radical that the Republicans in Congress voted overwhelmingly against him for an ambassadorship overseas. He is a huge Second Amendment gun grabber. He hates the Second Amendment. So I'm just wondering how you square this up with what I know about you. And this is the team that you're backing.
You know what? He's Joe Biden. He's a vice president candidate.
Okay.
Do I care about what Joe Biden does? No.
Oh, but you cared about Sarah Palin when McCain was running.
Yeah, she's a little scary. Yeah,
Hypocrisy.
She was a little stupid. She's been basically, in my opinion, she's borderline retarded.
But see, back then, she may become the president, and that frightened you. But this guy, not so much because I like Johnson.
No, because he doesn't frighten me as much as Palin. Palin's an idiot.
But
this guy here,
all his positions are stuff that I know that you're against, and you're willing to look the other way.
I'm ready to take that chance and put either one of these other two boobs in office. I am. And I'll tell you what, Trump scares me the most. If I had to vote for Trump or Clinton, I'd vote for Clinton. That's how much Trump scares me.
Where's he tracking nationally now, Johnson? What, 9%, 10?
No, he's more than that.
Nationally.
Well, I mean, he's over 10% in the amount of he's over the amount that he needs to go to the debates.
He's going nowhere fast.
We'll see.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. You can vote for who you want.
I understand that.
But it's just like this guy. I mean, I got guys that are just not only just you, friends of mine are like tripping all over. They're like orgasming over this guy, and
that's right, because he is an alternative to the dreck that Europe.
Even the real
party.
libertarians don't like these guys.
Well, that's even better.
Yep, because they're not real libertarians.
That's even better.
Libertarians are in favor of legalizing all drugs.
Right.
Okay.
So it's even better. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not for that. See, libertarian, and I'm not like sticking up for libertarians because they have some pretty far out positions that I'm not in favor of at all.
Instead of saying, you know what, he really should run on a common sense party. I think he has more common sense than both of the parties put together.
Even though he doesn't think that they're illegal aliens? They're undocumented workers?
Yeah, well, it's just semantics.
Oh, okay. Not the way he was adamantly, that link I sent
he didn't
you
like
that
it. He
time.
said it was derogatory.
Yeah,
and let me tell you something. He needs a Latino vote. So, yes, I want to call them undocumented residents, too.
Aliens.
Says you.
They're
do you know what they
aliens.
are? Both of them fit.
See,
They're
that's the political correctness
residents.
world that you and I are always talking about because
Hey, listen,
do you know what the word alien
we need to win
means?
this election. And if he wants, and if it gets the Latino vote to vote for Johnson, then guess what? I'm all right with him saying undocumented residents.
See, this is where it's semantics. Okay, let's say it's semantics. Do you know what the word alien means? It's from the Latin. That means to belong to another. So if you're a legal alien, you belong to another country.
That's
if you are an illegal alien, you belong to another country and you got here illegally. It's not a slur and it's not a racist term. It's just English. It's all it is.
Both of them are. Both of them are terms describing the same thing.
Undocumented worker is like
undocumented resident.
Yeah. Now they're undocumented residents now. See, they're even changing it even better. See, that's Orwellian speak like in 1984 where they invented its double speak. They make this stuff
I want
up.
this guy in the debates, and I want this guy on the ballot, and I want him as a viable third choice to these other two chuckleheads. And I don't care how he gets there.
He can have a choice, but he ain't going anywhere.
We'll see.
He's not. He's just not going to go anywhere.
I love this.
Yeah, I know you like it. The listeners have tuned out 25 minutes ago.
I don't know. I think that they hang in here for the simple fact that just because of what we're going to say. And like I said, I know
I would
that
hope. Thank you if you're still hanging in there with us.
Yeah, I say, because I know I'm watching you. You're reading something over there. You're not pulling these stats off these stats aren't in the back of your mind. You're reading something. You've got the company line over there.
No, I don't have the company line.
You're reading something. I saw you moving papers and looking at sites. You're doing something over there.
Yeah, I got a ton of stuff over here. How do you think I rule the world?
I'll tell you what, you toe that company line like nobody ever seen.
New York Guides to Essential Knowledge. I got books galore.
All right. Well,
and basically, you know why I have pieces of paper there? Because I had to plow through about 3 chapters of stuff, and I condensed it.
Okay. All right. All the stuff against Johnson? Because as soon as he started picking up some kind of steam, I had a feeling that I knew that both the Democrats and the Republicans were going to go on attack mode, and this is basically all that you guys can come up with.
The only reason there's something there is because this friend of mine constantly posts stuff up on Facebook, and I know eventually it's going to wind up on a podcast I do.
Me?
Yeah. Duh.
I thought it might have been Dave. Dave likes Wonder Woman and Bill Jackson. Gary Jackson.
Dave doesn't talk about
Gary Johnson.
Gary Johnson. Yeah.
Bill Jackson. Whoever he is, that's who I want as my president.
Undocumented residents. It's like
undocumented residents. Undocumented. Hey, as long as I get my lawn mowed for $30, what do I care?
You're doing that?
No. Hey, listen, we can't even get good Mexican food up here. You know, we got Taco Bell, and that's about it.
I'm not a fan of Mexican food.
Oh, I love good Mexican food. I had it once out in Chicago from like a real authentic Mexican restaurant. It's amazing.
Did they fuck that all up like they did pizza?
And then
in Chicago?
Maybe they did, but I'll tell you what, it was really good. And then when I went to Mexico, when I went to Cancun and we ate down there, the food was amazing. So I'm a big fan. Except for when I ate that. The problem was when I went down there and I ate the hamburger with the tomato and the lettuce, and that was with the water that they have down there.
Yeah,
and they gave me
that story. Yeah.
Right to the toilet.
Yeah, it's never fun. No, I mean, I know a lot of people that like it. It just wasn't. I don't move too far off Italian and steak.
Well, yeah, I understand. You're very you like what you like. You don't really move into other areas. You're not someone that tries a lot of different things.
What do you mean, food wise?
Anything. You're stuck where you're stuck. You like what you like, and that's it.
Why
You're not
am
moving.
I podcasting?
You would rather. Why you're podcasting? Because you saw how much fun it was. It took me 4 years for you to come podcast.
Yeah, it was busy.
It was busy. And now you love it.
Yeah,
the same way you would like Gary Johnson.
What's that?
Bill Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah, Bill Johnson, that guy that I'm supporting.
Yeah, that's it. Him.
Yeah, by the end of this podcast, he's going to be Grover Washington. He's just going to like...
The dude from New Mexico.
It's like
you think it's a big deal that he didn't know El Papo or whatever the name of the place was. I can't even get the guy's name right. You think I care?
Aleppo. That's what's funny about like watching you sometimes, because it's like
it's exactly what it's like. I was a big fan of Howard Stern, and it's probably why I'm sitting here doing this right now. And not that I'm trying to be Howard Stern, but I do try to be the authentic me that I can. And I used to watch the TV show, and it used to drive me crazy because
the Channel 9 show or the other one, the E channel.
The one on the E. No, not the E channel. The one that was. I think you had to buy it. You had to pay for it. It was like pay-per-view.
Oh, I didn't even know he had that one.
Yeah, he had a pay-per-view channel that I used to buy. I bought it, and he would be in there, and you could see his eyes. His eyes were darting all over. Like he'd be talking, but his eyes would be darting all over the place. Like I'm like, what the hell's he looking at? He'd be talking to Robin, but his eyes. And here, what he's doing is he's talking, but his eyes are looking at the board and what the guys are writing for him and what's coming up next and where the callers are and all this other stuff. And that's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And not that we don't have callers, but we're talking. I'm moving to the next story. I'm looking at our time. I'm looking at the sound effects. I know the one's coming up. I'm trying to find it while we're talking. And my eyes are darting all over. I'm looking at you. So my eyes are doing the same thing. And I also have episode, I think it's 28 with Jess. But to be honest with you, I'm still relatively new or still getting used to doing all this. I'm not as bad as I was when we first started.
No, I'm horrible.
But as I go on, we start doing this thing. But you know me, my memory is like there's no memory there.
I have a pretty good remembery, but
yeah, you do have a pretty good remembery.
Yeah.
My remembery is horrible.
Right.
So I can't go with facts. I mean, I couldn't even remember what you were talking about when you said, Florida thing with Bush. How they had the reef camp.
See, that's the thing, and and I wasn't trying to like pick on you, and if
I
it
don't
came
mind
off that way to anybody, that's John and I have been doing this for decades,
right?
But
no, I don't mind you picking on me. That's fine.
What I was trying to point out, what I was trying to point out is because it becomes like that old Stalin Goebbels line: if you repeat a lie often enough, eventually it becomes the truth. And what happens is that over the passage of time, that's exactly what will happen. People will start to accept that, oh yeah, that's what happened, because that's what the press is throwing out there, that it was stolen away from Al Gore and it's not what happened. Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff like that drives me crazy when people say things like that, because they don't mean it, but they sound really uneducated.
I'll tell you what, I can still remember like it was yesterday. And, there's certain things you can remember. And I think with me, it has to be an emotion that's tied to the facts that makes me able to remember it. Like I can remember a hand of cards, a poker hand that I played 2 years ago, card for card. But I can't remember because it was
because that's your passion.
No, well, what happened was it was a very important hand because it was either you're going to knock me out of the tournament or whatever. I can remember that because there was a lot of emotion going on at the time. And I think if you have emotion, a lot of emotion attached to a time, you can remember the facts of what was going on there. So I'll never forget, like when finally, after all the dust cleared and Al Gore had to go out and concede again. Reconcede.
Reconcede. Yeah, we were right the first
time. He walked out and he looked at the camera, and it was like he would rather do anything else than what he was about to do, and he put on this face where he's like, "All right, I'm going to concede the election to but in his heart of hearts, he really just wanted to say,
"Okay, good, you."
He had to go out there and just take that big old giant bite of that turd sandwich in front of the whole country.
I think I would like to. I mean, I'm not a huge Al Gore fan, but I don't dislike him to the intensity that I dislike Hillary Clinton. By no means. I would prefer to think, and I believe in my mind that really wasn't his idea to go through those machinations. I think that whoever the handlers were, whoever the powers that be in the Democratic Party at the time, I think they more or less pushed people into that because there was close elections before. Like a lot of people don't realize it. The Carter versus Ford election was very close.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know about what happened in 1960 with Kennedy and Nixon.
Right.
But
the mafia through the
election. The difference being was that Ford and Nixon were smart enough to know that a recount would tear this country apart, and that really did. That tore a lot of people apart, the 2000 election, over that.
And there's another conspiracy theory that I believe, that Joe Kennedy went to the Chicago Mafia and got them to throw the state of...
Well, that's not as crazy as you may think it sounds.
I believe it happened.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with Chicago was they elected more people voted than they had registered voters for.
Right.
And and Nixon knew it. I mean, they looked at it. I mean, but Nixon, as crooked as he was with the Watergate thing covering that up, he was smart enough and astute enough to know that a recount would just tear the country apart. It's not the first time we've gone through it. We just never. That was the first election, I guess, with 24-hour, 7-day-a-week news coverage.
Right.
And it just never let up. I mean, there were people that were coming in my store that would stop speaking to each other, where before they would be like, "Hey, Joe, how you doing?" And one knew, the other voted for the other candidate, and it was just a lot of animosity. It was sad.
Well, I think that the art of debate is lost now. And I think what happens is people forget how to debate, how to have a conversation, put out your ideas and your thoughts and stuff like that, and debate an idea. And at the end of the day, go home and just be done with it. Like you and I. We have these heated debates. And as far as friendship goes, it means nothing. It doesn't mean like we could have this heated debate while we're eating a sandwich. Mm-hmm. And then after we get done, we'd be like, okay, see you later, talk to you on Monday or whatever it is.
Right.
But now people, they get so entrenched on their side or they right fight. And to be honest with you, I think the problem with the country itself is that everybody on the right is so far right and everybody on the left is so far left that there's no way to meet in the middle. So there's nothing getting done. And I think a candidate like my friend Bill Jameson,
Grover Washington,
Gary Johnson, I think my candidate, Gary Johnson, could actually start to bring people into the middle and start to get things done, or at least use some common sense. Now, if the guy's going to make money, if he has a company that's going to benefit from the legalization of marijuana, that's America.
I'm the world's biggest capitalist. I have no problem with that. The issue that I have and why I brought that up is because a lot of the Grover Washington supporters are throwing it out like this guy is like the second coming of Jesus. This guy.
Let's put it this way: he's not the second coming of Jesus.
Right.
He's just better than the two options we have.
Well, I'm speaking on behalf of
Trump.
A lot of the people that I work with are Grover Washington supporters. So, and they're
Gary Johnson.
You think I'm not in the tank for Trump. I know that he's a flawed candidate, and that's why I don't defend him, but I will vote for him.
Just like what I'm doing.
Right.
Okay. So there you go.
Well, see, when you say you Trump guy, I'm not a Trump guy.
You're voting for him. Makes you a Trump guy.
I have no choice.
Sure, you have a choice.
I made the mistake in '92 at Ross Perot, and so did you. I'm not repeating that again.
Again, that wasn't a mistake. At the time, we voted for the best candidate. He didn't win, but we did vote for the best candidate.
But then but we unwittingly heralded the arrival of.
Again, it doesn't it doesn't matter that our candidate didn't win.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton now.
Where's my Hillary Clinton now? All that hot air. But
of course, God forbid if she does get elected, then her theme gets promoted to.
That's the truth. Well, that's for Trump too.
And Donald Trump's theme will always be.
No, I feel it the other way around. I feel that he's going to be more of the Empire Strikes Back.
No, because you hit the nail on the head. In my opinion, you hit the nail right on the head because he still has to answer to Congress. And there's a lot of people there that don't care for him.
Well, the feckless wonder has to answer to Congress, and he's been going around them.
But the feckless wonder had, that's a whole other topic. He had a lock his first 2 years in the of his administration. Where the Democrats had both chambers of the House,
right?
But the Republicans didn't take enough away from the Democrats to override a veto. So
right.
that's what happened.
So when we talk about the feckless wonder, we're talking about
Obama.
So
how did you get that from?
I've had it.
Obama.
So,
just so everybody knows.
Did you see them throwing Hillary into that van like a side of beef?
She was passing out. They didn't want her to fall on the ground.
Yeah, she was, and that wasn't a news van that caught that. That was just Joe Citizen like you and me that just happened to be at the right place at the right time.
See, there's real trouble in Hillary.
Yeah,
camp.
I mean, she is literally like you're seeing all the memes like you post one. She is Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah. So the thing is, right now, is that again. When you show me each candidate, to me, there is no other choice than Gary Johnson.
Grover Washington.
Right, Dave? I might not know who to vote for when it comes to Linda Carter or Elizabeth Montgomery, but I sure do know how to vote for Gary Johnson. No, like I said, I believe as, a candidate in the United States, he's really the only choice. But, sure, you're going to go over there and pull that Trump lever. And have at it, but see, I couldn't live with myself if I did that.
It's a shame, and a lot of people they blame the Republicans for allowing this to happen. But
who else do we blame?
Well, see, that's part of the narrative again at the media. Trump got more votes than anyone in the past, and probably they surmise that about 25% of the people that voted for him in the primary were Democrats, either because they were in New Jersey, you got to be registered one way or the other, so we don't really see that. Some states, it's just like walk right in, and it doesn't matter how you're registered, you can just go and vote in the primary.
I got what you're saying there. All right,
so you have a lot of people that were Democrats that either re-registered as a Republican to vote for him.
How smart is that? How smart is that to put the worst candidate?
That goes to show, that points out to you how flawed a candidate Hillary really is. That even 20% of those people that voted for Trump, if that number's true, I'm not saying it is. That's just what the numbers that are being bandied about are. That they're really not really happy with her at all, and that they're willing to go that way.
Well, I mean, I was just watching a video of the 2008 Barack Obama campaign.
Obama versus McCain.
Right, but this was was it in the primary? No,
where he badmouthed Hillary Clinton up and down all over the place.
Up and down, and I'm like, well, what changed there?
Obama.
What changed? Right. Nothing. If she was that in 2000.
Well, see, here's the thing.
No, it can't be 2000. 2004?
2008.
8. Yeah.
They hinged all their strategy on Hillary's team, that is, on Super Tuesday, and it didn't happen. They thought that she was just going to sweep through all the Super Tuesday states, where like 32 states have their primary or whatever it is, and it didn't happen.
Well, I think she had a backdoor deal with him that if she just conceded, that he would get her in 2016. And so far, it looks like that's what's happening. You know, getting the Republicans to nominate Trump, and then he just can't help from not opening his mouth and putting his foot in it.
Right.
And now this third party candidate's popping up, which now will really delete the. Now and to be honest with you, I think the Democrats really want Gary Johnson to be a viable third candidate, because a lot of the Republicans that are not happy with Trump will be very happy to vote for my buddy.
See, the other third
Gary.
candidate, well, actually, there's a fourth candidate. You got Jill Stein out there.
Yeah, I know, but she's even
she's
more
tracking, just polling just about at the same, slightly lower than what he is.
You know what she is? She's all the she's getting all the votes for Bernie Sanders.
Right. She's super left.
Yeah, she's even lefter than Bernie.
Yeah.
Like, she's so far left, she might be right.
She's the Green Party. Well, how does that happen? She's so far. She's the Green Party.
You got to come right around. You know, you're right back. You know, it's like the old international date
happen. It doesn't happen. You insane? Are you insane?
She's so far left, she's right. All right, this is going to be an editing nightmare, so we better wrap this thing up. 2 hours and 13 minutes. Where do you come up with this? All right, well, listen, thank you very much for listening to the Brand X podcast. Please, if you're there's nobody listening, but if you're listening,
2 hours and 13 minutes, Jesus Christ.
We have no filter, none. Could you imagine if we had to do like a morning radio show?
Podcast 18 and podcast 18.5.
I tell you what I'm going to do with this podcast is I'm actually putting out two. I'm breaking this into 2 hours. And I'm going to say this is the first one and this is the second one.
Jesus.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop and say, hey, listen, we talked for another hour. And if you want to listen to more of this nonsense, go on over to episode 2 or whatever it is, 19 and 20. So if you want to hang out with us and talk to us on social media, it's very easy to do. Go over to the brandxpodcast.com/contact and follow us there. And also, if you would, if you like the show and you would like to give us a rating and review, you know how we love ratings and reviews. It makes us all warm and fuzzy. Just go to brandxpodcast.com/iTunes. It'll take you right over there. And you can do that for us. So we really appreciate it. And believe it or not, next week we'll come back and do some more of this stuff. All right, everybody. Have a great week.
Have a great weekend, everyone.